Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I will be your host, Kay Suthar. Welcome to another episode of Make Your Mark podcast. And oh my goodness, I am super excited for this episode. Already had a conversation off camera with our guest today, and she's already blowing my mind. Like, seriously, guys. And so her name is Jenn Drummond. She's a mom of 7. Yes, guys, 7. There's a story behind that, which we're totally going to be asking her about. She's a successful business owner and a world record holder. As the first woman to climb the second highest summits on each of the 7 continents, she now spends her time inspiring others to create a thriving business and lasting legacy of their own. She shares her story and strategies for success through her book, Quit Proof: 7 Strategies to Build Resilience and Achieve Your Life Goals, and Seek Your Summit podcast. She also talks about her program and her signature talks. Please welcome Jenn to the stage. Oh my goodness, Jenn. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It's perfect.
Yeah, for sure. Now, one of the first questions, well, I've got many questions to ask you now, right? But I would love for us to kind of go into this episode, explain to our audience today a little bit about what your journey looked like. I mean, it sounds like you've done a lot in a short amount of time, right? Yeah. So what did that look like? Because a business doesn't just start up overnight, right? So what was your journey like?
Yeah. So when I was in college, I had a friend that graduated a year ahead of me and took a job in finance. And he told me, he's like, Jenn, you need to take a job in finance. You're expensive. This is a field that pays well and you'll be able to afford your lifestyle. And so I said, okay, perfect. So I didn't even think about interviewing or whatever. I'm like, I'm going to work where my friend works. That sounds great. So I graduated from college a year early to take this job that had an opening. And I worked for this company for a few years, learned the mousetrap, learned what they did, how they did it. And then I found a way that I could maybe do it better in a little bit neighboring niche. And so I broke off, did my own thing, had a few setbacks there, but eventually found my rhythm and built up an investment service company that white labels a platform for institutions. And over the course of the years, I've hired myself out of a job, essentially. I run the numbers and check in a little bit behind the scenes, but that has let me do all these other things that I enjoy with my time, because that's what I was valuing.
Wow. Okay. So in your bio, we already mentioned and spoke about it briefly, you have 7 children and still have been able to run a business, be a mom, be a business owner, be successful at both. How did that happen? Explain how that works and how you manage and balance everything.
Yeah. So I was not balanced in the beginning. I want everybody listening to understand that there was zero balance in the beginning of my career, but I loved what I was doing. So for me to spend 12 to 14 hours a day doing it, it didn't matter. The only thing that was competing with my time was drinking with friends or doing things like that. And I wasn't really into that. I had a vision of building a successful business and having myself have free time later on in life when I wanted to have children. So that was very much my intention in the beginning.
Wow.
What was not my intention is not being able to have children naturally. I had no idea that I was going to struggle with fertility issues. That was a huge emotional trauma type thing just because I'm female. We're born to have babies. The one thing I was born to be able to naturally do, my body was like, not happening. Right. So I had fertility assistance. Nothing worked. And then finally, one day they found the chemical cocktail that turned me into a hen, and they got a bazillion eggs. And those bazillion eggs became 14 embryos. They planted 2. I got 1 son. And then I got a bill from the fertility clinic, after a year my son was born or something. I'm like, oh, no, that's cute. I've paid you guys plenty of money. I have no outstanding bills, but thank you. They're like, well, these are your embryos on ice. I'm like, oh, well, let's talk about this embryo conversation again. And in the US where I lived, because it's based by state, you had three choices with embryos. You use them, you donate them to somebody else, or you destroy them and they give them to you to destroy. I'm like, I just spent years trying to have my first child. Like, I do not want to destroy these embryos and have that karma come back and hit me full circle. So not an option. So then the other option was to donate. And I thought, my whole life I'm going to be wondering, are you my kid? Are you my kid? Are you my kid? So I'm like, okay, we'll use them. And the doctors thought I'd get 3 or 4 kids. Well, I have 7. There's no more embryos, but there's 7 children. So that's that story.
Oh my goodness. That is so freaking awesome. I love it. So, okay, I want to take a couple of steps back here.
Yeah.
It sounds like that the entrepreneur mindset was there from a very young age, that you already had planned what your life, or what you wanted your life to look like. At what age did you kind of really decide that, okay, the corporate world isn't for me, I need to start my own business? How did that even begin?
Yeah. No, so I had the worst, best experience in college. And I think a lot of us have these worst, best experiences, these terrible things that we vowed to never allow happen to us again. And so then it
Right.
sent us on an entirely different trajectory. So I did an internship at a furniture company, office manufacturing furniture company, in college. And I was with their temporary labor force. So I was helping staff the lines of people, like, who had to show up every day to work the line to be able to produce this chair that I guess nobody could get enough of. And so we were like begging people, please come in, please work weekends, please do all this kind of stuff. We need these chairs, like da 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 da. And then, the year 2000 came and we had that big internet bubble and everything fell apart in the market. And we had 200 people working that we were begging to come in every day, that all of a sudden the next day we had to let them go. And I don't know why I didn't quit. I have no idea why I didn't quit this job, but I stuck with the job and I helped let go 200 people in the matter of 5 days. And they were crying and they were upset. They're like, I missed soccer games for this. I missed all these events. What happened? And I didn't have answers because I didn't run the company, right? I was just the person that was helping with this labor overflow that now they didn't need. And it was such a horrible experience that I realized I would never be able to work for somebody and give it my all if somebody somewhere in the company could be like, hey, we made a mistake, you're all done.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was
Okay.
crazy.
So at that point, you were like, I need to run my own business. Is that how that worked?
Yeah, pretty much. I was like, okay, the only way to protect myself from this type of thing happening, because I don't know how to go like partial. I'm all in or I'm not in. And obviously I have 7 kids and everything else, right? So I'm like, okay, well, if I want to give my heart and soul to something, it has to be something that I have ownership in. So when I got into financial services, when I first got out of college, it's your book of business that you're building. Like, you might be building it within a company, but if you left, like, you could take that book of business with you. And so to me, that was perfect. And I needed to know finance because otherwise I would have every single purse and high heel and fast car that you could possibly manufacture because I was into that. But when I got into finance, I realized, the cost value of money, opportunity costs, like all these different things, that it was so perfectly aligned career because it protected me from my own spending habits.
Right. Oh my goodness. So when this happened to you, right, it sounds like you've had so many different kind of realizations going through this experience. How did you know what type of business you should really be starting up? Or was that
You know,
part of the journey and trying to figure that all out as well?
Yeah, I don't know if I really knew. Like, I was going to college pre-med because I
Yeah.
knew that doctors made good money. And I'm like, that's going to be my ticket. It's like, I'm going to make good money and then I can figure it out after that. And then when my friend graduated a year ahead and said, hey, you should get into finance. I'm at this company. I really like the job. You would like it. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just follow my friend. And my thought was, worst case scenario, if I didn't like the job, at least I learned a lot about finance. And finance
Right.
is one of those things that you use your whole life, whether you're in finance or not. And so I kind of sold myself on that concept. I graduated from college a year early. So I was barely 21. And my parents said, listen, if you take a job somewhere, you are working at that job no matter what for a year, because otherwise you're going to look young and not committed to your future, and you're going to have a hard time getting a job. I'm like, okay,
Wow.
fine. I'll take a job for a year. What are you worried about? I got this. And so when I graduated from college early, I took this job. I show up my first day. I'm like, hi, I'm Jen. I'm the new financial advisor. Like, nice to meet you. And they gave me a phone book and a telephone. I was like, what's this for? They're like, well, you have to cold call to get your clients. Oh, no. I'm not a cold caller. I'm a financial advisor. You must have me confused with somebody else. And like,
Oh, wow.
no, sweetheart. When you start in this business, you start in this business by cold calling, and then you build your book of business. And I cried. I cried every day for the first 3 weeks of my job, because I'd never heard the word no so many times. I had no clue how it was going to last. I even like tried to get back into college. Like, could I get back in? Is there room for me? And they're like, nope, this is your deal. So then all of a sudden I realized, like, I'm stuck at this for a year. I can either cry every single day for the next 360 some days, or I can figure out like how to make this thing work, or how to have at least fun with it, and then find out a new job. Well, eventually I learned that the no's were just a numbers game. I made the whole thing into a game. They kept stats on me at the company, right? So they kept everybody's numbers on the board, which was perfect for my personality because I like to be number one. So I drank the Kool-Aid, right? I drank the Kool-Aid. I did the things, whatever. Well, the nice thing about finance is that that industry's proven. It's been around forever. Like, we know that we need financial people. So it wasn't like the industry had to be proven. I needed to be proven. And once you do the work and you start building up the momentum and you start making money, I mean, I made more money than my parents did my first year out of college. So I might have hated it, but I was like, woo, like, this is good.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Now, okay, going in as a young person, right, into a job that you thought you were going into when really it was something completely different, right? How did you emotionally, mentally get your head around going from, oh crap, I just need to get rid, I'm not doing this, I'm going to leave, I'll explain to my parents, but actually sticking with it for 3 weeks, crying, trying to figure it out, like what was going through your mind during that time that you decided to stick with this and keep moving forward?
Yeah. So I grew up in an era where we were afraid of our parents. My children are not afraid of me. Okay. But I grew up where it's like, I have to be dying if I'm calling my parents and something's wrong, right? Like, otherwise, like, everything's good. We're good. Don't worry. So calling my parents was not an option. When I tried to get back into college and that wasn't an option, I realized, like, okay, I have a year. I told everybody I'd give it a year. I'm giving it a year. And then it became of no longer like this. Now my energy, how do I make the most out of this? Like, what can I get so that in a year this is done? And obviously I have a high suffer rate. So I was okay, I guess. And then you start like making games out of it, right? So I would have this phone book and I would have to call out of the phone book, and these people would say no. And I'd be like, no back, right? Like, I wanted to get cocky and like, no, I win. I get the last word. You don't get the last word. And so I bought one of those. I don't know if you have them in England, but in the US, we used to have these like little ice cream cones that you would push a button and off the top of the cone would pop like this little foam ball, but it would be attached to the string to the cone. They had guns like it too. It's like a little kid's toy. You would like pull a trigger. It would shoot out this like spongy ball, but the ball would be attached to the gun.
Yes.
So I bought these things. So I had a gun that was like this little sponge ball gun. So anytime somebody said no, I'd shoot them. I'd be like, pow. And then I'd put my thing back on and I'd do another phone call. And I'd be like, I shoot. Like, so then I felt like I got even, right? Like you might have said no, but I said no to you too. And then,
Okay.
right. And then I did this thing, which I'm sure anybody who's in sales knows. It's called smile and dial. You can hear a smile when you're on the phone. So I would bring a mirror into like my little area, and then I would be like smiling at myself so that the person on the other line would like hear that smile. And then I hated
Right.
cold calling so bad that like the minute I got one client, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
who do you know? Who can I help? How can I get referrals? Like it wasn't like I wanted referrals. It was life or death if I got referrals, right? That meant if any referral meant I did not have to sit on that phone anymore. And when
Right.
something's painful enough, we figure out ways to not have to deal with the pain.
Right. That is very true. Oh my God. I love that. I love how you gamified it all. That is awesome. Okay, so
Yes.
tell me this, by the end of that year, first of
Yeah.
all, were you glad that you stuck with it? And number two, what were I guess, the three key points that you learned from that experience?
Yes. 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 So 100% grateful I stuck with it. I would have
Hmm.
not stuck with it if I didn't make that commitment at all. And my success was because I stuck with it. And my business today is because I stuck with it that first year. So
Wow.
my advice to anybody starting out in a career, if you can do some kind of like agreement with yourself and hold yourself accountable to that. So say you're going to stick at a place for a year, commit to the
Yeah.
commitment. Like commit to that commitment that I am staying here for a year, no matter what. And then now the journey becomes, how much can I learn? What will I use like in other careers if I want to pivot someday, and just really make the most of that year with that boundary in place. And I think that's very helpful for us to be able to maximize whatever situation you're in and extract as much value as possible. So that'd be one.
Hmm.
Two, figure out how to gamify whatever you're doing, right? The
Right.
person having fun is like way harder to beat than the person that's like grunting their teeth and just biting their way through it. So if you can
Hmm.
figure out a way to have fun, whatever that looks like for you, some of the guys in the call center room, like they would put up a basketball hoop and then they would throw basketball every single time, or like we just played games. You have to make it fun, which then brings
Right.
me to the third point is build community. Okay, calling by yourself in a room by yourself is terrible. When you have a community around you where you're all suffering through the same thing, you can laugh
Right.
at each other, you can joke with each other, you can motivate each other, you can be like, okay, I'm going to call 10 people before you call 10 people. And you can like play little games. Again, you're kind of gamifying. But if you
Right.
do these three things, commit to the commitment, figure out a way to make it fun, and build community around the activity, you're going to be successful.
Oh my goodness. I love that. I love that. Now, let's talk about the business that you have built today, right? And
Yeah.
explain a little bit about how you help your clients.
Yeah. So this is an interesting story and how I got to the business I built today. So I left that company and started my own business. And I visioned what all Hollywood movies show. I'm going to have my name on a building. We're going to have all these office spaces with color printers and blah, 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 blah. So I started focusing on what it would look like instead of focusing on getting clients that would let it unfold organically. And so I almost blew up the whole business because I was spending all this money on how it was looking versus what it was actually needing. And
Right.
lucky for me, I had a client that was the CEO of a credit union. And she
Mhm.
had come to me and she's like, hey, we're going to start offering these services to our membership. I'm like, oh, I can do that. She's like, oh, you can? I'm like, yeah, that's what I do with you. I could do this for your members. And she's like, oh, okay, that's amazing. So then I interviewed with her board and I got that contract. And so my idea of having my building with my name and having all these little offices with advisors in it went entirely away. And now my business I was white labeling. So there was no Jenn Drummond. It was a white label platform. I would go into a credit union. They would provide the office space. They would label the program. So they built up their brand. I would do the financial service. And then I would put an advisor in there to do the actual work. and I would do all the compliance. And so then I did this compliance layer for a whole bunch of different institutions. And we did a revenue sharing agreement with the advisor in the office space. And it was this whole business that I didn't even know existed. I didn't even know how to do it. It just organically unfolded because of what was happening in the industry and where my niche was. And so anybody who's getting into business right now, we might have ideas in our head that this is what it's going to look like. This is how it's going to be. And that can get in the way of what could really be successful for you and have it look an entire different way. So when you're going down these paths, pay attention to where revenue's coming. Pay attention to needs that might be showing up in your industry that you're aware of because you're in the industry working, and see if it might pivot or go in a different direction than what you originally thought.
Wow. Okay. So what you're saying is be open to the different opportunities that come your way, right? And see if it's viable. Don't just dismiss it because that's not what you're doing right now.
Right.
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 Oh,
Yeah.
right. Okay. So
I mean, we manage $1 billion in assets right now. That's a lot of assets to manage. We have a very successful business that no one knows about because we white label it.
But as a business owner, right? Because people say to me all the time, like they want their names everywhere, right? They want to be known. They want to be famous. They want to be speaking on stages, right? They want people to know who their face, their name is, their branding. And so as a business owner, right, you originally went in thinking that, you want your name everywhere. But what happened there regards to your mindset and thinking, okay, I don't need to have that anymore, right? I just need to build a business, right? Make money, generate money. I don't need to be known.
Right, right. I kind of like reevaluated what was the purpose of being known, right? For that business. I mean, I'm known within the industry that needs me, but to the people outside my industry, have no idea, right? It's a secret success that's not really advertised, which is actually a huge advantage when you have children, because my children have no clue if they're privileged or not. Their name, there's no reputation there that they need to live up to or they need to assume or do anything like that. So when I had kids, all of a sudden I realized like being incognito is a bit of a gift, especially with raising them. And I don't want them to be spoiled, entitled brats, which is a struggle in today's world. Okay, let's be honest. So to me, once I had kids, all of a sudden I became okay with it looking different. And I became okay with like, okay, what's my end goal? My end goal is to provide a comfortable lifestyle for my family and impact others. I do not need, whether I'm famous or not, does not matter, right? I can still provide a comfortable lifestyle for my family and impact others. And so that just shifted things that worked well for me. Now, it might not work well for everybody listening, but it's definitely an option available for those that are interested.
Definitely. Now, I'll actually just go back a little bit regards to your kids. Now, how old are your kids at the moment?
Yeah, so my oldest is 16 and my youngest are 10.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now, have any of them actually asked, Mom, what do you do? How do you do it? I'm interested in business, right? Because they must have seen you. I mean, all right, your name's not in lights, but they still see you working, right?
Yeah.
Generating. Yeah. Have they ever asked you, okay, Mom, how are you doing this? I want to get involved, or I want to learn how to build my own?
Yes, so I have very much entrepreneurs under my belt, right? Which I'm grateful for. Yes. So my oldest son, I wanted him to get a job this summer. And he said he didn't want a job. He was going to host the party and sell tickets to the party. And he ran out this whole budget sheet of how that would look and how he'd make more money if he hosted a party than if he worked all these different hours during the summer. And I'm like, you know what? He's 16. This is a perfect age for him to either have it work out or have it fail. It doesn't matter. I mean, the amount of money we're talking is maybe $2,000 over the entire summer. And so that he, it worked out for him. It was a great learning lesson. He did some things great. He did some things not great, but it was still a win. There was no loss there. So I think my kids know that I'm into money because when they want to do things, like for example, for Christmas, they make PowerPoints and they're like, this is what I want. This is why I want it. This is what it like they do. This is why this is the product that I should get versus the other products in the marketplace. So I make them do a little like SWOT analysis. And I didn't
Yeah.
realize that wasn't normal until my friends are like, what? My friends are like, Jonathan can't come over because he's making a PowerPoint for his Christmas gifts. Can you explain this to me?
Oh, that is hilarious, but I love it. Oh my goodness. So, okay, back to that, right? How did you bring up your kids to like learn about all of this, right? Be entrepreneurs, this versus that. Be logical, right? Come with presenting and actually kind of making it, making it sense to make sure that, you understand, they understand, this is why this should happen. How did you embed this in them from like day one?
I don't know. I think it just organically unfolded, right? Like they're watching me build out a presentation. And when kids are little, they think whatever we're doing is cool, right? They don't know that building a PowerPoint's work until they have to get into a PowerPoint. And then it was, oh, this is a great idea. Let's breathe life into this. And now everybody can do a PowerPoint and here's how it works. And
Wow.
yeah, it's just been organic how it's unfolded.
Oh, that is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the kind of results you bring to your clients, right?
Yep.
So you've got so much knowledge, so much experience, right? So how do you best help your clients? And what are some of the pitfalls that you see that happens every single day?
Yeah. Okay. So I like a little bit about a career path that I'm on right now is I just set a world record in mountaineering. And for me, getting out in nature and pulling away from the noise of the world helps me really plug into like what I want to do with my life, who I want to be, and how I want to show up. And so I've married this mountaineering experience with my business experience, and I take executives or business owners out on little expeditions to pull away from the noise of everything going on. And we're just in nature and we talk about where do they want to take their business? What are they concerned about? What's going on in between their ears that's keeping them from going down certain paths or different ways? And so I become the sounding board for them and an environment that just lets them have the space to think and explore. We're in such a hustle and grind culture that to be able to really move forward with intention and purpose, we need those timeouts. So a lot of times I'm working with individuals and a timeout basis where we're looking at things, we're getting away, and then we're coming back recharged, reinvigorated, and ready to go forward.
Oh, that is amazing. Okay. And you really do take them out of the comfort zone if you're talking about going on these mountains, right? Which I don't know how many of your clients are actually used to.
Right. Now, like, I'll be honest, I might be climbing Everest and K2 and things. I am not taking my clients on those types of expeditions. We're looking at where they are fitness wise and what would be a challenge for them. We all have our own mountains, and then we'll go something that's more appropriate for them and do that level of mountaineering.
Oh, amazing. I love that. But you're still taking them out of the comfort zone, right? In a different environment, which is epic. And so what are some of the common things that your clients come to you that, they're kind of mind boggled and they need your help with? What kind of mistakes are they making?
I think the biggest thing is getting away from their intuition or learning how to understand like what that gut feeling is. And they get too caught up in their brains with the rational numbers, and they're not really paying attention to like how it feels to them or where they want to go with this. And they're really, I find the biggest benefit is just pulling away from the noise and reconnecting with who they are, what they envision, and how they make that happen. And then sometimes when they pull away for some of this stuff, what we've really found is there's maybe one or two employees that are taking up so much time and so much energy out of their lives that we need to put that employee under another person so they report to somebody else so that they get that time back, or we need to help that other employee find another place to work because what happens is we're just going through our day by day by day, and we don't realize the load that accumulates or the things that are going on until we pull away from it and look at it from the outside in. And when we do that, then all of a sudden we realize, man, we don't have 1,000 problems. We have one or two that we can do these little adjustments on, and everything gets back together and starts humming the way that they want it to.
Right. So, I mean, there's a solution with everything, right? It doesn't have to be a problem unless you make it a problem, right?
Right.
And so, how do you help your clients have that mindset shift? Because it is all about the mindset shift, right? And going from being in your head to actually, okay, let's look at what's going on and what solutions we can come up with.
Yeah. So we do this thing we call the dump grump or the grump dump. And so we get like all of these feelings out on paper, which feel like a ton, right? Like all these problems, all these things not working, all whatever. And then once they're on paper, we really realize it's the same problem with many faces. And we're like, oh, actually, this is part of this problem, or this is part of this problem. So if we fix this one thing, now we fix 25 things. It isn't really 25 things that we need to fix. And so a lot of times it's just getting it out of here, looking at it, having space to come back to it and keep reflecting. And then we're able to make decisions where it's like, what's one decision that I can make that knocks out 25 problems?
Wow, that is super cool. Oh my goodness, like you have already given so much more information, and I can see that you still got loads more to pour out, right? And there's so much more that you can help people with. And I know at this point, Jenn, people are thinking, oh my goodness, I need to work with her. I need to connect with her. So where can people go to actually connect with you?
Yeah. Please. So check out my website, which is www.jenndrummond.com. I have a book coming out in January, and I have all kinds of programs and things that people can get involved with. You can find me on different social channels, but if you go to the website, it will direct you to wherever you need to go. And I'm here to help. And I love being a part of other people's journeys.
Fantastic. I love your energy, Jenn. So many golden nuggets in such a short amount of time. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.